We'll see what she says, but in the meantime, let's call the meeting to order at 7:03. And we can do.
Is Valerie there?
She is, yep,
Okay.
I can see her
You
name.
can see her. Okay.
Valerie, if you want to say hello, you can unmute. Otherwise, we'll assume you can hear us. Okay, so roll call and seating of alternates. I'll start with myself, Christina Davis, present. Pam Summers,
Present.
Keith Lipper,
Present.
Paul Varga,
Here.
thank you. Judith Austin, not present. Angie DeSanto, not present. Tim Rhodes,
Present.
thank you. Hugh McKenzie, not present. Okay, Angie did request that Tim be seated in her place. So Tim, I will seat you for Angie.
All right, thank you.
Communications. Few things, the expenditures report I shared on Tuesday, maybe via email. That's the latest one. I didn't have it for the agenda because I didn't have it at the time that I wrote the agenda. If anybody would like to add it to the agenda, we certainly can. Or it's just something that you reviewed and we don't have to discuss it. So I would just open it up to the group if anybody would like to add it to the agenda. Okay, that's fine. If you do review it and you have any questions afterwards, you can send them to me. And I would forward them most likely to the treasurer. There has been some back and forth with the auditor, so that is still not completed. And we can get into more detail about that.
Thank you for putting me on copy for those.
Oh, you're welcome. Also, in relation to the audit, I was requested to complete a questionnaire. It's like a fraud questionnaire and it's routine. It's something that is done every year. They just want to look for red flags or that sort of thing. But I did just want to let people know that I was sent that and I did complete it. Okay, Judy's not gonna be able to join us tonight. I did share that Connecticut Mirror article as well on the state budget, which it's like clear as mud, I think. But I think there were new numbers I saw that came out tonight from the state that the revenue didn't go down as much as they expected. So I think it's an okay state budget picture. I did get an email from the assessor. Just want to let everybody know that the 2023 grand list will be finalized on Wednesday, January 31st. That's going to be emailed to me and I'll pass it along to the board along with the top 10 taxpayers. And then the Board of Assessment Appeals meets on March 5th regarding any appeals. Also, a reminder related to the assessor, we have a reval in 2025.
Could you say that one more time?
We have a reval in 2025, which is a year earlier than we should, but the state is rejiggering everybody. So I just want to put that out there so we don't forget and we're cognizant that that is going to happen next year.
In the 24-25 fiscal year.
Right.
Correct.
Okay, so that's it for communications. Public comments. Is there anyone who would like to speak? Okay, moving on. Approval of minutes. We have the regular minutes of the Thursday, January 11th meeting. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
I'll move.
Okay, Pam Summers, and I'm gonna repeat things a little bit because I didn't get the feedback from Valerie
Yeah.
that she had trouble hearing.
Yeah.
So if you think I'm a bit dense, it's only because I'm trying to make sure everybody can hear. So Pam Summers made the motion to accept the minutes. And can I have a second?
Paul Varga, I'll second that.
Okay, Paul Varga seconded. All right, Keith, yes.
I believe there were a couple of corrections.
Yes, and we can discuss those now.
Okay.
So, I'm just gonna go over a couple of corrections. In the section communications, where it says R19 is currently in the second year, that should actually be the state. I was referring to the state budget, so it should be the state is currently in the second year. Under approval of minutes for the regular meeting minutes. The with one abstention by Mr. Lipker is not correct for that one. He only abstained on the second motion, so we need to remove with one abstention in brackets. Under item B, review and discussion of most recent general fund expenditures report. The third paragraph, it says, Mr. Lipker noted that he had not received any auditor notifications. That should say any budget notifications for ZBA. So auditor should be budget, and then it should specify that it's regarding the ZBA. And then the final note, under item G, financial management policy. It says the undesignated fund might be changed in future to 16% for the first selectman. I believe that should say the undesignated fund as percent of the general fund, the general operating fund.
Did you say by the first selectman?
Yes, you did talk about it. Yes, you were the one who said it.
And what is said? I'm sorry.
That, because we've typically done 10 to 15% in the undesignated fund as a percentage of the general fund. Right? 10 to 15%. And you made the
Hang on.
comment that it's going up to 16%.
No, I didn't say it was going up to 16. I said that, if I understand correctly, that in a town like Windsor, they've gone up to 16, and it may be recommended by the auditors that we go up to 16. That was what my intent was, but that's okay.
So it
It
should
sounded
say.
like we were changing it and we're not.
No, okay, so the undesignated fund as percent of the general fund may be recommended in the future to be 16%,
Correct.
is the correct statement. Okay. All right, those are my items. Sorry, anybody else? Okay, so we can vote on accepting the minutes as amended. All those in favor, say aye.
I,
All
Aye.
those, oh, thank you.
Aye.
All those opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Okay, next on the agenda is the selectmen's update. Catherine?
okay. Some things I'll cover in other agenda items, because it sounds like they're laid out there. I think, let's see, I met with Senator Gordon last week to get his update from the state and for him to hear about some of our issues. I also made arrangements for him to hold office hours here, and we did have some people attend. We had done the same thing with Representative Pat, I'm blanking out his name.
Lloyd.
We did that, I think, the previous month. And so what I'm getting from them are commitments to come out on a regular basis, at least once a quarter. Okay, I met with Kinsella Waste, who is our, picks up our trash from the transfer station, et cetera. They have a new billing thing that they're going to start. I'm not too happy with it. It varies by month, depending on all of their clients in this area. Depending on what they have for trash, and that kind of thing. So they're putting something in like that. And the other thing was, they also will be, in, I think, May, they're going to start a different kind of recycling machinery. That instead of passing things through their machinery 3 times and having people hand pick out items for recyclables, those kinds of things, they're going to have a machine that does it in one fell swoop. So I think what we're doing is we're paying for some of that. So we also, for the school roof project, we put together the RFP for the clerk of the works. I believe that's going out on Monday. That's going out later than we would have liked. We had a sample RFP from the architect, and what we did was we worked with town council. Actually, yes, with town council to make sure that that RFP covers all the way through to the smashing of the champagne bottle against the roof, basically, instead of what was in the RFP that was provided to us. So again, that's going to be going out on Monday. As far as health insurance, what we're hearing so far, and I'm talking with the school about that, they've been very helpul because they're kind of the key people that end up talking with the insurance company up front, is they're talking 20-something% increase. They're going to probably put in their budget 20% because they don't know at this point. As far as the budgets, I've asked for clarifications from some departments on what they submitted for budgets. You will see, and I can't remember, this is on the agenda.
Well, yes, we
Okay.
have here status on the budget submittals.
All right, well, what I will tell you is you'll see what looks like an anomaly in the budgets, and I'm going to explain it here now, and I will be explaining it many times over, I'm sure. It will look like salaries are jumping like 6%. That is not true. What you have is we had annual contracts with the union. And each time we signed a contract over the last few years, which were annual contracts, they were signed after the budget went to referendum. So we had money that we had put aside in the contingency line item. Instead of putting anything we projected for salary increases, because we didn't want that to get in the way of any negotiations, and we didn't know what the number would be in the end. So each of those years will show, year ending 22, 23, will show a number, and then you'll see actuals. Like, for example, audited actuals for year end 2022 showed a higher number in salaries all across the board. But it showed the higher number because the decision about what they would get for an increase wasn't made until after the budget was finalized. So that line item will, and then they just moved the actual number over to the next year for what was projected automatically, because again, with that one, we didn't have a signed contract, so we couldn't put the number in there. So a number of months ago, we signed a 3-year contract with the union, and the 3-year contract is at 3%. So we already know what the number is going to be. We also don't have the audit to show what the number actually was for year end 23. So we can't reflect that moving over or anything like that. So what shows up is, because of the timing of the contract, it was before this budget, it will look like it has 2 years increase in it. And I know I'm probably not being very clear. I'm trying my best. I will do a write-up that explains it. But the reality is no, it's a 3-year contract, and we already know, because we signed a 3-year one, what is going, the numbers are going to be. So it will look inflated to anybody who's looking at it. That's not the case, where they're not getting a 6% increase, for example. They're getting a 3% increase because that's what was contracted with the union, and essentially, as goes the union, so go the town employees. You know, the ones that are non-union employees. We keep it fair. All right, so I don't know how you'll capture that, other than I will be providing a write-up that explains that, because you'll also be asked about it when the budgets come out. For those with those in the public with a discerning eye. Okay. Let's see. Everything else that we have relates to, or that I have, relates to the other things that are on your agenda.
Okay.
So, do you have any questions of me that I can go back and?
Yes.
Good.
With the office hours for our state reps, will those be on the town website?
Yes, they'll be on the website, and wherever possible, and it wasn't possible this time because of the timing. Wherever possible, we'll put them in the Citizen.
Okay.
And again, the cutoff date for the Citizen for submitting something is the 15th of the preceding month. So that's why we didn't have something for this one in there.
Okay.
But we had, it was a lively session. There were a few people there, but very lively session. So.
Then my other question is regarding Casella and this rate that they have with their billing.
Yes.
Have they given you the proposal, what that's gonna look
Like an overall cost increase?
Yeah, well, well, I know that they're redoing their
Facility.
their facility. Well, they're also, I guess, this year we're supposed to get our old contract runs out, so they're gonna be coming out with.
Oh, that's already told us, and the contract runs out June 30th.
Okay, but for this rotating monthly charge, have they given anything in writing? Because
No, they haven't given anything in writing. What happened was the equivalent of their marketing rep came to see me. And he is interesting. When he was talking about it from the perspective of Casella, not from our perspective. So we asked him a ton of questions. I had Chris with me. I'm reluctant to say what he was talking about, only because I want to make sure I get it right, because this is being recorded and whatever.
Right.
What they did say, what they're proposing is a 3-year contract.
Right.
So, when I have something in writing from them, and I will pursue that. Because we got one answer from the marketing guy, and another one where somebody sent something and said it was gonna be a 20% increase. And we went, whoa, that isn't what we heard from the marketing guy, because I think he said a 10% increase. So that's what I wrote down,
Okay.
10% increase in cost overall based upon recycling. One of the things they'll be doing with the recycling is, they have, it'll be around May that they will start to put in place something. We won't be taking advantage of it probably at that point in time, but where cardboard can be separated out and not included in the regular trash because it's inflating. Well, first of all, it's inflating our trash cost. The cardboard, they will take as a recycling thing and give us a rebate of $35 a ton on that. Now, I don't know how much cardboard we're gonna have, but so it was a lot of what I would call sales talk.
Okay.
And we were trying to pin them down. I did ask questions, for example, where does the trash go? I know we have some people on the conservation group that want to know what is actually being done with the trash, and I do want to see what their facility has. So they indicated that their general trash goes to an incinerator in Preston, Connecticut. Their bulky waste gets sorted, it goes to 15 to 20% of recycling is pulled from it. The rest is ground up and sent to Ohio. Wood waste, clean wood waste, is biomass, is burned and made into electricity in Plainfield. And recycling, they have a variety of locations, including Franklin and some other towns basically around us. So, we will get more information for you. I just wanted you to know that we have met with them.
Okay. Any other questions for Catherine?
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Update from the chair on the capital projects committee.
Oh, my favorite thing.
Oh.
Okay, so we
Well,
have,
wait a second, I just want to set the stage here, Catherine, because that was my first meeting of the capital projects committee. I've never been a part of that process, so it was very interesting for me to see that conversation. And that's why I included the link in the agenda. If you saw that, you can view the meeting on YouTube if you are interested in how it comes together, but basically all the different departments and aspects of the government submit, as Catherine was talking earlier, submit their projects for what they think is needed. And the idea is to come in with full scoped out quotes. And then the committee meets over the next few weeks to figure out what we can afford and how we can pay for it. So if you want to give a further update.
well,
Catherine.
first of all, thank you for educating the public, trying to educate the public on what this really is. We have, there were a certain number of things. There were only 8, I think it was, items that were submitted in time for our meeting. Not all of them had, bear with me, had estimates from vendors. Some had just an estimate. What you're supposed to do for that commission is you're supposed to provide estimates from vendors. So that, and usually, hopefully 2 to 3. So that we have that information available to us. It's not enough to submit a 1-page thing with nothing supporting it. So, we did go through the ones that were, talked about. I'm sorry, we did go through the ones that had been submitted, just talked about them in general. I have reached out very pointedly to some other groups to make sure that they get their submissions in and that they have all of the supporting documentation. The rec department submitted something that didn't have anything. Okay, and they actually submitted late, so they weren't looked at during the meeting. I want to make sure that for our next meeting, we have everything we're supposed to have to work with. So I'm trying to make sure that people do that. I'm hoping for holding our next meeting next Wednesday. If not, it's going to be the Wednesday after that. We are marching to a tight time frame, just like everybody else, for the budget. And the selectmen are to present the capital improvement plan to your board on March 7th, if I recall. So I don't want to have wasteful meetings. I want to have productive ones. And if they don't, and my recommendation is going to be, if they don't submit supporting information, then we shouldn't even be looking at the submission. And I know that sounds hard line. It's just, I can't keep working with something that's so amorphous. We had a list from the school that was pretty extensive. It's become even longer. They gave a list of basically their priorities. There are some questions. I talked with someone who was not able to attend our meeting. John, last name starts with a C.
Calories,
Sorry?
is it John Calories?
Yes, John Calories the other day. And he had a number of questions for the ones that we did review. I thought a really, really good question was, did anybody who brought these things forward, are they challenging whoever is giving them the estimate? Are they saying, is that your best price, kind of thing? So that was an interesting thing to hear, and I don't know that everybody is. I would like to hope that they are. And also the actual form and request for items to come to the capital improvement committee for review That was sent out December 4th. So they had a good 6 weeks. I realized there were a couple of holidays in there, but a good 6 weeks to begin their work on it. And some of it, I know some was very last minute. What I'm going to ask each of the groups, and I've already started, is for what they've submitted, to prioritize them so that we have the highest priority on top when we're looking at everything. Because right now, without estimates for a lot of things from the school, we have, let's see, we've got 289,000 for, bear with me, 961,000 for public works. We have with the reval, which we fund every year. We've got fire truck lease, that's gotta happen. We've got a fire truck to replace the ET 420, the ABFT station roof repair. Well, we're looking to see if there's anything that can be covered, the damage to their roof can be covered by any kind of claim. Engine bay air circulation fans, when you add up theirs, it's 683,750. And then for Ashford School, the only thing we have an estimate for is the $4 million of the $5 million for the Ashford, building the Ashford School roof. Everything, they have a long list that apparently is in priority order, and we don't have estimates for anything other than locker replacement that is for not this coming fiscal year, but the next fiscal year, 25-26. Town projects, we have senior center door replacement for less than 8,000. Website upgrade, and what we've done, Chris and I've done, is we've looked at our ARPA funding, and we are hoping to use ARPA funding for that. It fits the categories for ARPA. And at this point, the team that has conducted the RFP and determined which vendor they'd like to go with for the website will be presenting to the Board of Selectmen. I don't think it'll be our next meeting. It may be the one after that, or a special meeting. And what they'll do is they'll do a demo of that website so that the selectmen can see what it can offer. I have over 40 years in IT. I can tell you that the people who pulled the RFP together and conducted it, that are employees here, they did such a good job that there was nothing that I changed in what they put out. And that's high praise, because I used to do the RFPs for major companies. So they'll be doing a demo, and I want to know if, well, I'll ask the Capital Improvement Committee. I want to know if they want to see the demo too, or if they really just will go on the recommendation of the Board of Selectmen when we get to that.
Mhm.
The problem with doing the demo is the company is located in Kansas, and they can't do demos at night, different time zone.
Okay, so yeah, more to come on the capital improvements company,
More
but
to come.
committee, not company. But I think in the past, the last 2 years, it's been like very last minute, like, oh, and then there's this capital improvement stuff. And so that's why I'm trying to make sure that we're all aware of what's going on and we can engage, you know.
Exactly.
where needed.
I'm concerned that your board won't have the audit information to know if you'll have any money left over from the 2023 year end fiscal period to replenish CNR, capital non-recurring, which is where we fund quite a bit of this. There's clearly, what's been submitted is way too much for that in terms of what we'll be able to financially do. And without knowing what's available in CNR, it's very hard to say, well, because we have, not only do we have what's been submitted, but we also have what's the suggested funding for each. And when we say CNR, at this point, it's huge. I'll just leave it at that, because it's gonna be a moving target for a little bit.
Well, we'll get to the audit further down
Yeah.
the agenda. But let's move on.
Okay.
The next item is reviewing the budget calendar and discuss what town departments we would like to present their budgets and when. So we have, the budget calendar. The things to kind of pay attention to would be our first formal presentation is going to be on February 22nd from the Ashford School Board of Ed. And then March 7th is going to be the general government budget and the capital improvement plan. So in the past, we have asked specific town departments to also present or be available to ask questions. Last year, I don't believe, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Paul, did we have any departments come in last year? I don't remember that we did.
To my recollection, nobody came in. I did do an explanation for the fire department. But I don't believe we had any departments actually come in and do any explanations.
So
Typically, the Board of Selectmen end up having them come in before you ever get to them. So a lot of times the rationale is, okay, the ones that have maybe the biggest increases or something where you want to understand, for example, what their programs are that they're putting out.
Well, let me just say this. I think personally, I would want to put the DPW on the list.
Yeah.
Just because it is a new person. We had some, I don't know how to phrase it correctly, but there were some overruns for the last fiscal year. And I think we all had questions at that time. And so I think it would be helpful to have the DPW available probably March 7th, I'm thinking.
Okay, please bear in mind, this is the first time that our DPW director has ever done this. He's been doing a marvelous job, but he may be a bit flummoxed as he's trying to do that, so be kind, okay?
Paul, you're gonna be nice, aren't you? Oh,
Casey, of course, I have to work with Casey all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and no, it's not a to me, it certainly should not be perceived as a negative. It's just, it's a big chunk of the budget. It's a new person, you know, having that a little additional info, I think would be helpful.
He also reviewed it with me before he ever submitted it, so,
That's good.
one thing that has come up is, there may be, we're looking at a change in some staffing that will affect budgets, so we'll talk about that when we have to present.
Okay. Are there any other key departments that people want to make sure that we hear from, or, you know, that we have a department head at least, you know, zoom in that day? I just want to open that up to the membership if there's anybody in particular, any departments.
I mean, do you usually, being on the library board, I know we've raised our budget by about $10,000. Is that something that Anne should schedule to come before us sooner rather than later? Or is that too small an increase?
Well, I think it depends, you know, and it depends on this board, and it depends on the members.
Yeah,
And again, she's another person who's relatively new.
yeah.
So scheduling some time for her might not be a bad idea, but I would just, you know, what do others think, you
Okay.
know, in terms of
Okay.
if people want to speak up.
So your thought is,
Go ahead, Paul.
I was just gonna say, I think that in fairness to those boards, including to DPW, we should probably not have him here on March 7th, because that's when Catherine and the Board of Selectmen is supposed to bring that to us. And so that'll be the first time we actually really get to look at those numbers. And so that's the Board of Selectmen's opportunity to explain why those departments and vendors are being, you know, why their budgets are submitted at that number. And then later on, either the 14th or maybe even after that, if we have questions for specific departments, then we can ask them to come in and clarify above and beyond what Board of Selectmen have already submitted, so to speak. You know, there's a lot of, there's
That
a
seems
lot
reasonable
of
to me.
budgets that are submitted, so.
I was gonna suggest the same thing,
Mhm.
is, you know, have your opportunity to look at the budget. You know, when we present it, I'll present every bit of information that I can. I'm not as comfortable speaking to all of the technical questions about DPW's machinery, that kind of thing,
Mhm.
any more than I would be with the fire department. But giving you at least a chance to look at the budgets and go, you know what? I think we want to see this one and this one and this one. And then if you have specific questions, it helps those department heads to be prepared.
Right, yeah.
And they may even provide a write-up that helps you.
Okay, so it sounds like what I'm hearing is let's at least, we're not gonna put it down in stone, but what we're thinking is that we're gonna take that March 14th meeting.
Okay.
We'll get those budgets on March 7th. By the end of the meeting, hopefully we can come to some consensus over what are the budgets that we're gonna have some more detailed questions. And then invite those department heads to respond and clarify at that March 14th meeting. I just wanted to kind of flush that out so we have a plan,
Good.
because again, I feel like in the past, it's been a little like, whoa, we don't have time. So I'm glad we talked that through. That's helpful. Any other questions or comments on the budget calendar? Okay. So last year, we submitted questions to the Board of Education prior to their presentation. And it was, I believe, so they could really kind of come in, just like
Prepared.
you're talking about,
Prepared.
prepared, so they knew what our questions and concerns were. So I think this is more for Paul than anybody else. Paul, did you like that process last year, and should we, would you want to do that again, where we sort of submit questions probably the Monday before that meeting, so they can come in on Thursday knowing what our kind of thoughts are?
Yeah, as
What
I
did you-
recall, didn't they give us a copy of the budget prior to their presentation so we could do that? And I agree. I think it's a good idea. And I also would actually encourage it for the other departments, maybe same way. Like after March 7th, if people have specific questions, maybe they can get those to those departments or through the Board of Selectmen, so that they can get answers that can be put together in an explainable fashion. Because some of the questions people may have may not, like Catherine alluded to, like the machinery, from DPW, that some of that, or whatever it may be. It's not as easy as a one sentence answer, which is why we did it with the Board of Ed, because there's so many questions a lot of times, so.
Mhm. Okay,
And I'll do everything I can to make sure you have the general government budget in advance of your meeting, where we have to present, so that you can do the same thing. If you see something before we even talk about it, then we can make sure that we cover that as best we can.
okay. So maybe what I will do, just so everybody knows, as soon as I get a budget prior to these meetings, the February 22nd and the March 7th, as soon as I get that budget in my email, I'm gonna forward it to the members.
Excellent.
And I'm gonna say in that email, if possible, please review prior to the meeting and submit your questions in advance. And then that way we can get it to the departments and the Board of Ed, so that people can walk into these meetings with, some preparation and some intelligence behind, and they're not having to kind of scramble in the moment. Does that make sense?
And your
Yeah.
board members know that emails, communications to your board and everything are not a back and forth. When she sends that out, asking for your questions, you can submit the questions, but you're not supposed to be having conversations outside of the meeting. And that would constitute conversations.
Yeah, ex parte and all
Yeah.
that, so, okay.
Okay, all right, so it sounds like we've got a good process there. Item E, update on the audit. So the latest on the audit. I feel like it's like
The continuing
a
saga.
drama. No, it's not really that dramatic, but, so the latest is the auditor says they have everything except there is a $41,000 discrepancy or reconciliation that needs to happen between the Board of Ed and the town. So the records aren't quite jiving, which is not, I don't think it's anything to be concerned about. It's generally like Sherry Susie was kind of describing to me that, like, you know, they might post a check or they cancel the check at the school and maybe the record didn't make it to the town and then that discrepancy arises.
Did she indicate if they do monthly reconciliations?
That I did not ask, so I don't know.
As I recall, they should be doing monthly reconciliations, and that's why you wouldn't have this problem at the end.
Well, that's a good question to ask Sherry. So last I spoke to Sherry was last Friday, and so she was going to be going through all the line items and trying to identify the issue. So, but we can't, as of today, I got an email from the auditor that they had not received the
I'll follow
explanation.
up, she'll be in tomorrow.
Yeah, so, and the auditor was very clear that nothing gets done until that's done. So that needs to get finished. And then we get the audit finalized and we get the presentation from them, etc. So.
And my compliments on your
Yes.
communications with the auditor. You're
Yes,
very
well,
firm.
So the other thing I did ask, because he was nice enough, because I said we're a little frustrated that this is taking so long. And he was nice enough to say, well, what do you need? What can I provide? And I said, okay. Well, these are the three things. And, you know, what do we end the year with? What do we have in CNR? What is in the 1% fund, which is our education overflow fund? Now, I honestly don't think he can provide those numbers until he gets everything else, but he asked for what we needed, and so I told him this is what I need. So I have not heard back from him in regards to that, but that's where we are. I think everybody's trying their best to get it done, and it will be what it will be. So next, any questions on the audit? Okay, next item, fiscal year 21-22 annual report is done. I want to ring bells. I want to jump up and down because this took forever, but there is a box of printed annual reports that Catherine is going to take to her office. I think the town clerk needs a couple copies.
Right.
A couple copies are going to go to Butch Simpson, who is the person it was dedicated to, and then the remainder will be available for the public. I would ask members of this board, don't take a print copy. We have electronic versions. If you really want a print copy, let me know and I'll print one off for you. But these were, you know, specially bound.
And it'll be put on the website, right?
Yes, yeah, it should be.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Which actually, who does that?
I would contact Karen Zulik
Okay,
to see, you know, how to get that out there.
yep, because it's the file. She might have already even done it, if that's the case, because I know I sent it to her. Okay, next item, status on budget submittals and annual reports from town departments. So they were due to the treasurer on January 12th. I was just curious, did everybody get theirs in? Are we waiting on anything?
I believe that we have, you said CBA didn't even get the
Well,
request?
Well, I got that cleared up.
Good.
I sent that in.
I haven't heard anything from Sherry that indicates that they have not all been received.
Okay,
I know that we did what we should have in the selectman's office. What was interesting was all that was sent to us as a request to fill in was the Board of Selectmen department. We have other things, you know, we have maintenance of the buildings and things like that. So I asked, why didn't we get these? Because we were trying to finish up what we needed to do. And she said, oh, she did them last year. And I'm thinking, why would she be doing them? And it must have been some kind of a crunch, but we're doing them,
probably.
okay? And going through those.
Okay. Oh, and in terms of the annual reports,
Yeah,
and I talked to Sherry Susie about this. I would like to get them as soon as you can. I'm gonna just keep track of what we have. And then
you're
I'm
doing what
gonna,
I do. I ask for copies as well.
pass them along. Amanda Robinson, who has been the person in the past who's helped edit it. She's a town resident. And we pay her a nominal fee to put it together, so she's agreed to do it again. But I wanna be able to see what we have
Absolutely.
and then pass it to Amanda. So that, and again, and I wanna make sure that we stay on top of it, so we're not so far behind with it, like we were last year.
Right.
Or this year, rather. Okay. All right, so that's the update on the budget. And then the update on the special town meeting to fill the Board of Finance alternate vacancy. I just mentioned this one so I don't forget it, but I do want to make sure that we do get this done because I feel like I haven't
It's
seen.
supposed to be,
Oh, do we have a date?
oh, yeah, we have a date.
Okay.
Oh,
March, March, is it, does somebody have a calendar? I just need, it's on a Monday
Call up.
at 6:30, March, I'm sorry. February 7th, I think is a Monday.
No, February 5th is a Monday.
So February 5th
or
at
the
6:30.
Okay,
It will be an in-person only meeting.
okay. So February 5th at 6:30, you said?
Yes, and if for some reason I've gotten that wrong, and I don't think I have, I will call you. It's at 6:30 to be followed by the regular Board of Selectmen meeting.
Okay. I wonder if it's on the website, let's see.
And the only thing we have on that at this point is the election of a alternate for your board.
Yeah, I just wanna mention that because Hugh McKenzie, who is an alternate, I haven't heard from him, he hasn't been around, so. And then if something comes up in Tim's life where he can't attend, that's what we really need, that third alternate, so I'm glad that it's been scheduled, so that's good. Next item, this is just an FYI, I find it interesting, the report on the NIPS funding, so if anybody isn't familiar with that.
I want to hear what you have.
Oh, it's just a report, that's all. Just, so the number of nips, so those are those little tiny bottles that Pam, you know, from cleanup.
Yeah, I
Are
know.
all over, unfortunately,
know.
the sides of our roads.
Ugh.
But the state created a 5-cent surcharge on each one, and then, as a result, towns get an allocation. So Ashford's allocation, this is 10/1/21 through 9/30/23, so that's 2 years worth. Was $21,764.
So let me ask you, 21,000.
764.
64. Okay, so we received 11,000, then we received 4,000, and this is based upon the sale of nips in town. Unfortunately, not based upon the pickup. And it's 3 towns kind of combined. Well, when you look at the 3 towns, Willington, et cetera, when you look at, and our portion is in all likelihood, this is showing a couple of years, so I think what we've already received is included in here.
Probably.
Okay, and what, anyway, it was 3 towns, for example, I think it was Willington, Ashford, and I suspect one other town. The Ashford had the most.
I'm
We
not
got the
surprised.
highest, we got the
Yeah, no, it
highest
says,
percentage.
it says in this report that number of nips sold in Ashford is 435,000. And compared to, for example, Andover, which is relatively similar size, at least population wise, and on Route 6, they only had 125,000.
Yeah, they don't drive as slowly there.
And Willington, yeah, but you think people would pull off at liquor
No.
stores there. Willington had 197, way less than Ashford.
This is
Well, again, it's
scary.
based upon the sales.
Right,
Not
but
about-
why is it that so many people are, I
Yeah.
mean, this is not for the Board of
I
Finance.
was at a liquor store, and there was a person, 2 people ahead of me, and he bought at least 30 nips
Wow,
and something else.
And probably drank them on the way home.
well, that's
I
not,
don't know, but they were all nips. I was thinking, why don't you just buy a big bottle and get some little glasses? Anyway, what I did want to say about this NIPS bill is how helpful it's been. The new guard shack at the transfer station was paid entirely out of that. And there's some other things, signs and things,
So,
and they have to be applied basically to your transfer station.
Oh,
So,
Okay,
well,
well, that's good.
yeah, so I'm really pleased,
All right.
well, pleased and not pleased.
Not this,
Yeah.
but
Well, I'm happy for our liquor stores in terms of their making profits and they can get their taxes.
Well, don't forget, we're the last stop going out of town, going east, so.
Is that what it is?
Maybe they're tossing them out the window before they get to,
Yeah, because there's not much between here and Pomfret, really.
well, there's,
No.
no, because Eastford's a dry town.
It's not though.
But it was.
No, they
Union.
voted,
no, Eastford.
they voted like 10 years ago to allow a restaurant that did serve alcohol, so they reversed it. They are not technically a dry town anymore.
Well, they can't purchase. You can't-
Yeah, nobody's opened a liquor store.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, moving on. It's
Mhm.
getting late. Agenda items for the next meeting. Hopefully, we're gonna have an audit and a presentation, so that would be something I would put on there. And let's see, the next meeting would be, is it February 8th? Yeah, well, if we, forgive me, let me get my meeting calendar. Meeting schedule approved. Okay, so yeah, so we may have a meeting on February 8th. That would be probably if a miracle happens and the audit comes in really soon and we can get them to present February 8th. Barring that happening, I suspect that we'll probably just meet on February 15th for a regular meeting. And then we would have our February 22nd meeting where the Board of Ed presents their budget. Any other agenda items that people want to put on the radar? Okay. Remarks for the good of the board? I don't have any remarks other than thank you for your time. And I will take a motion and a second to adjourn, please.
So moved.
All right, Keith.
I'll second.
Keith made the motion. Pam seconded. It's 7:55. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those
Aye.
opposed? Oh, there's Paul, there's Tim. Any opposed, any abstentions? No. Thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Good night, everybody.